Hello, it's Anna and Sophie from Soundyard here. We make Chris Skinner's Countryside podcast, and we've got something very exciting to share with you. We have a new service that's being launched, and it's called Spoken Stories.
Spoken Stories is all about recording the voices and memories of your loved ones in outstanding quality, so they can be enjoyed for generations to come. For example, you know the story that Grandma tells that everyone in the family has heard before. Well, Spoken Stories is about getting those stories down and preserving them for your family history. Spoken Stories is about gifting someone the time to capture these personalities and unique voices.
We record your loved ones' tales, whether it's their whole life story so far or something more specific like a life-changing event. It is a gorgeous experience, and what you're left with is a beautiful monologue that really captures the essence of that person.
Think of it like an audio portrait, and take a listen to a snippet of this one from Diane's spoken story, recorded in her beautiful garden.
I was born in 1951 at Newmarket, and unfortunately I didn't see Mum for a year. I was looked after by a lovely nurse called Diane, my name, because my mum had TB when I was born. And so my mother never worked because with her problem with her, lungs, she had to go and have it sort of pumped up every so often. She used to do a lot of dressmaking, so she always made our clothes years ago. But yeah, she was a lovely mum, yeah, and Dad as well, yeah. That's very nice childhood I had, yeah, very nice. Yeah. I got married February the 16th, 1974. The weather was gorgeous. I ended up having to put on a big sort of T-shirt under my wedding dress I didn't need. I had a lovely one of those transparent umbrellas in case it rained, and it was just a beautiful day. I think I'm always sort of quite cheerful. I mean, if I go down the Luke and deliver some eggs to somebody, I'll meet somebody and chat, and then Paul say, "Where have you been?" I said, "I've been chatting to people." That's just my way. That's just how I am. We've always lived here. We had this built in 1974. They put the footings down in February and we moved in the August. Years ago, I used to go around the village on a bike, and when I had Ian, he'd sit on the back. We live in a lovely area. We've got lovely neighbours. They help us all out, which you all do with neighbours, and that's very, very nice. And as I said to Paul, I'm hoping we can keep this place on until, well, I don't want to move from here until I go out in a brown box. I hope that's not too soon.
If you'd like more information about Spoken Stories and to take advantage of our special introductory offer, you can head to www.soundyard.org/spoken stories.
And keep listening after this episode with Chris, and you'll hear another example of a spoken story. It's a view of the world from a 6-year-old.
Well, we're on board with Chris Skinner once again in the farm truck, and we're here at High Ash Farm for another Countryside podcast. And you're not starting the engine yet, Chris. And
No,
you're looking at the distant horizon.
Well, not really. All around the farm here, venerable old yew trees, and at this time of the year, they're producing their fruiting crop. They're called arils. They're bright red berries, and when you look at the yew there, that large tree, right next to where we're sitting, there are tens of thousands of, they look like holly berries almost at first glance, but it is a coniferous tree, and yew, the fruit of the yew, is actually modified pine cones. So that's why it's a coniferous tree. And this time of the year, they produce thousands of these. They're called arils. They're red and juicy. And
even from 30 yards distance, you can see the red dots quite clearly, can't you?
Rat has just put the windscreen wipers going because he's and now he's growling at the way.
He doesn't like windscreen wipers.
No, he doesn't like a lot of things. And just behind the yew tree is a tall conifer, and there is a mistle thrush sitting right at the top of it.
Oh, yes.
Like a stormcock. Now, mistle thrush is our largest thrush species, And then just to the right, there is a beech tree, a young beech, about 25 years old. And sitting in the top of that is a fieldfare and a redwing. They've already been arriving.
Yeah, they're migratory species from colder countries, aren't they?
Exactly that. And they're already coming inland from the near continent. They fly down from Scandinavia right across from sort of the tundra regions almost, where the redwing will nest on the ground because there's no tree vegetation up there. They're so far north. And once the food supply diminishes up in northern Europe, the birds start to migrate southwards, still within the European boundary over there, the other side of the North Sea, and eventually they end up on the coastal region at Holland, and then they'll hop across the North Sea. It's quite a small flight, often take off at dusk the previous afternoon, fly overnight and arrive here in the UK early morning often, and I have seen some large flocks already this year, and they don't seem to be able to stop flying. So although they could make landfall right on the east coast here, they carry on across the top of High Ash, and I sort of like to whistle at them and say, look, come on, there's a yew tree here.
Yeah, you can stay here. Don't bother going to Cornwall.
No, that's right. And they will carry on flying westwards later on, but once they get this migratory instinct, or this is called an eruption, I suppose, because it's a cold weather movement, they'll come across. And the redwing in that beech tree I pointed out have been joined by two greenfinches right at the top. So quite a bit smaller.
And now the leaves are coming off the trees, but they're quite bare, the top of those trees.
Yes,
we can see these things now.
That's right. And so it's a brilliant time of year for bird watching. I hadn't intended to do this. This was actually before we go out on the farm. I've got a few things for us to visit. And it's just lovely to see that. And the huge effort those birds put in to come across the North Sea. I mean, if you get it a little bit wrong and the wind is either from the south or the north, you can either end up in France, or if you go across the top of the country, the next landfall would be the United States of America. So you've got to get it right, and so it's a huge risk. So they'll migrate over, particularly redwing and the fieldfare, lots of other birds. It's that time of year when everything's on the move. I think we mentioned in a previous podcast insect-eating birds like the swallows, swifts and martins, nightjars have all gone, but they've left our shores. But we have just as many coming back in, including these winter visiting thrushes to join our blackbirds and our song thrush as well. So they're all welcome, but it's like turmoil. It's always on the move, on the change, because birds are mobile. They can do it, whereas lots of our native animals, things like hedgehogs, and they're kind of stuck here within our shores. They can't do anything else but cope with the vagaries of the weather, and that's what it's been like. We got some questions on the weather at the end of the podcast because we're kind of stuck under this gloom. I don't mean a financial one or a political one.
There's this high pressure we're stuck under, and it's just grey and very, well, the wind has just disappeared entirely.
Yes, my father would be shaking his finger and say, you watch out, this is a weather breeder.
Aha, that's what could happen. Well, I mean, it's perfectly fine for us to go out. It's about 12 degrees, but it feels a bit danker and colder than that. But the year is growing short now, isn't it?
I know, and
mid-November.
We certainly are, and that's the beauty. The leaves are off the trees, a lot of the deciduous trees now, and that enables us to see more than we would have done just 2 weeks ago. That's how dramatic our seasons are. And just look at the side of the workshop, the farm workshop. Every colour of red, orange, green and yellow, all on one plant. That's Virginia creeper. Wow, is that a stunner? Right, come on, start this truck up and out onto the farm proper.
Rat, keep away from those windscreen wipers. He turns them on by accident and then scares himself witless.
Rats.
He's ignoring me.
Chris Skinner's Countryside Podcast with Matthew Gudgeon.
Well, we've come to the other side of the farm now, and Rat's gone herring off. I mean, there's a rival terrier on a lead coming up towards us.
Yes,
So,
and Rat's off the lead, so we could be entertained in a minute or two's time.
World War III might break out. Then we've got actually one of my favourite places that you've introduced me in the last year to here. This pond, this water in the woodland fringe here, where the cyclops were.
Yes, those one-eyed little monsters in the pond here, and the water levels drop considerably because it's dropping about an inch a day at the moment. We've had very little rain, appreciable rain in the last fortnight to 3 weeks in Norfolk, although other parts of the country have had quite a lot. And so it's really valuable. It's unusual. It's a pond on top of a hill, but there is clay here, and then underneath the clay is a gravel layer. So what we're looking at is what's called the water table, really. And that's the level of water.
And so that's about 5 or 6 feet down, that, isn't it?
Yes, it is now, and it's deep as well. It's 12 feet deep. And I don't know if that was dug for clay block buildings, because there's some really good yellow clay down underneath this. But it's an area of mature woodland. There's 13 areas of woodland here at High Ash Farm. Some of them are tiny, most of them you haven't been to. And this one, we've hardly given it any attention at all. There's an avenue of oak trees right the way down one side of the wood.
Oh, that's quite beautiful, that, isn't it? It's quite scenic. The horses go through here.
Yes, they do. They ride through. They're old shooting rideways, and there isn't shooting on the farm anymore. I've kept the sort of old shooting rides open. That's where the beaters used to go through all the understory, and and a pheasant flies out, bang on cue.
There it goes. Look, there we are.
Yes, there it goes.
Gliding out over the field.
No wonder what disturbed that.
Well, that was you. Oh, another one, look, as well. 2 males put up.
Yes, yeah, he's flushing pheasants for us, but we haven't got the guns, so we'll be hungry this weekend. So there's this mature avenue of oaks, and it mirrors the oaks on the other side of the field there. All the farm is covered in these avenues of oak trees, many of which have ivy on. Then the woodland was added, so this is a relatively new wood. It's about early 1900s only, would you believe? So here's Rat. He's going to go straight into the bramble thicket underneath.
Expect some more pheasants any second.
Yes. Anyway, we'll walk into the woodland a little bit. The tracks have all recently been mown. That's the last mow of the year here. But something interesting happened. 2 years ago, we got to close to 40 degrees centigrade in July 2022 it was. And it put all these trees under enormous pressure in order to find water. The big mature trees like the oaks beside us are really deep-rooted. There's mature Scots pine here, all up around a 30-metre height, which is about as high as they go. There's young oaks in the woodland as well that were planted, and the Scots pine were planted as what's called a nurse crop. So you get those lovely straight trunks all the way up. Can you see that oak tree just there?
Isn't that fabulous?
Absolutely.
It's going up a mile.
It is going on. So it was planned to fell the Scots pine after about 50 years because they'd done their duty as a nurse crop. But somehow or other, they were left. They weren't felled, although there was a felling licence at the end of the Second World War to fell them all. And since then, it's pretty much turned into natural woodland. We've got holly here beside us, holly going through the understory. But there are hundreds, or should I say there were hundreds of young trees in the understory. There's one here. Can you see it? And there's not a leaf on it.
Oh, that's a dead tree, isn't it?
And the one behind it as well. Dead
Yes.
one.
Yeah, just a skeleton of a tree, that.
Yes, and that drought that we had in the really intense high temperatures, the trees that needed the moisture the most, and that particular one's a sycamore, although it killed lots of other small trees as well. it was just a little bit too much, so they gave up the ghost. It died where they were standing. So it wasn't a disease, it was drought stress caused by dry soil and finished off with those really high temperatures. And I checked the farm diary, got to 36 degrees, 37 degrees one day, and then the following week it was way up in the early 30s. So that's easy to forget the huge change in our climatic conditions and the effect it has on young woodlands like this. I did call it a young woodland, and it did the same. If we walk down the little shooting ride a little bit further down here, so we're kind of looking back at the effect of 2 years ago. Just look here, coming up beside us, they're two quite large sycamore trees in that case.
Those are trees that were progressing towards maturity.
That's right.
Cut off.
They're the what you would call the understory, I suppose, or the next tree layer. Once these, because every tree has its life. This one above us, and it's a Scots pine. It's just about dead. It's lost nearly all its needles because it just couldn't stand the drought and the high temperatures. When you're a large tree, you need quite a lot of water each day. And the two sycamores, which are growing about 6 feet away from it, one's 9-inch diameter through the trunk and one's about 6 inches. They're up, 25 feet? And they're both dead.
Died of thirst.
Exactly. When you turn around and look back through the canopy here, you can see trees with dead tops all the way round, and then some of the oak trees, it had an effect on those as well. Bearing in mind, oak is deep-rooted. We're just walking down the old shooting ride here, and as we walk away from that pond behind us, the soil's getting lighter and lighter. It's almost sandy here.
Powdery.
Yeah, look, and it's bone dry. Look at this. Yeah. So if we walk on a little bit further, there's an oak tree here which has fascinated me. It's a pretty large tree, just coming up, and late July it lost all its leaves. A little bit further, and what it's done is try to have what's called compensatory growth. And all the leaves came off the tree, and you'll notice the foliage on the oak tree is completely different. We're nearly there, another 50 yards.
Which one are we talking about? The one on the
one here.
The left.
We're now coming up to it.
Yeah.
Look, it's completely different to all the other oaks. And what's happened, the main branches have stayed, all the twigs and new growth on it died off. And it's as though the tree's suffering from some strange disease. That's not the case. It ran out of moisture and just went into early autumn. But in July, the end of July, there wasn't a leaf on it. And I thought, that's it. It's not going to come back to life. If you're dead, you're dead. And the tree defied all the odds. And so all the main branches have tiny little tussocks of leaves on them, as though it's like starting off second life. Yeah. It's very strange.
It's got all the makings of being an old tree, which of course it is, but with young growth.
Yes,
and
exactly.
It looks rather bizarre.
Exactly that. The stress level was so great for it. It just literally gave up the ghost for the rest of that year. Spent last year, 2023, recovering a little bit, just a tiny bit of growth, and this year the growth is a little bit more, but it's just a shadow, literally, of its former self, because that was a magnificent oak. It's growing on pure gravel. Where we've walked, we've gone from clay to gravel. That's how the glaciers left this part of Norfolk. We had a gas main go through the farm in the mid-1990s, and I was astonished, almost within a pace, when you look down the side of the trench where the gas main was put in. It went from sand to gravel to peat. There's every soil type that you could imagine. And just here, right beside us, one of those young trees is a sycamore. It's just laid on top of the understory. But because the canopy's much less now, you could walk from one side of this wood to the other, which is about 50 yards across. It's a long, narrow wood. You could walk comfortably across there just a year ago, and now it's brambles because the light level has increased in the woodland understory, and it's allowed the brambles to come back, which is brilliant for birds like woodcock and for those pheasants we scared out, or rat did, I should say. So it's got a real value. And of course, the blackberries, that produce fruit here already, that drops on the floor, and you've got an excellent habitat for our small mammals, things like field voles and...
what's he doing?
He's having a good time. That's what he's up to.
He's
You can
around.
just see him. Oh, he's getting a move on. He's checking it out, but he's using his nose. He's hunting not with his eyes, but he's using his nose and using a different sense that we hardly use ours for. Look, just there, another 2 lovely trees, both completely dead, deceased.
Out-competed by the bigger trees.
Yes.
Their roots didn't go down far enough.
Yep.
And something that happened now several years ago that we had in our newspapers for maybe a week or so,
Yep.
and then forgot about it.
Yep.
Actually, there's still the effects
Oh,
here.
the effects are very visible, particularly for these trees in this young area of woodland. So we've looked back 2 years. Without hardly moving, we're just going to do a short walk, and we're going to look forwards 2 years.
Point the direction, Chris, and I'll follow.
This way.
Off goes Rat again, looking in the undergrowth, in amongst all this, pock-marked country here.
Yes, we're quite close to a very large rabbit warren, about 3/4 of an acre. The rabbits are too numerous to count. We don't count sheep here if you want to go to sleep. We count the rabbits. And they're doing really, really well, and it's a super habitat for them. Again, quite a lot of coniferous trees down the other end of the woodland. We walk from one end to the other. We're standing right underneath this year's buzzard's nest, which is in the top of the Scots pine.
I can see it, yes.
Nearly 4 feet across, that nest. That's what you call a platform. We could both go up and sit in that and survey the landscape. And a large Scots pine, the drought took the whole tree out as well, because all the coniferous trees are quite shallow rooted here, and because we're on sandy gravel, almost pure sand where we're standing, so you could get a little bit depressed. Very large oak tree there, almost without any leaves on, not because it's autumn, it's kind of shed the leaves 2 years ago and hasn't come fully back to life. And anyway, enough depression from the changing weather.
2 years ago?
I know. No, we're going forwards 2 years. And just here, there's some dead stalks. And this was a sight for sore eyes. All these dead plants standing here. No, don't worry, because they've done their job. These are foxgloves. And the sight here, I've done a little film which reminded me of how beautiful this area was. There were thousands of plants growing here. It's perfect conditions. It's fairly shady. We're on the edge of the woodland, and they seem to love the soil here. It's impoverished soil.
And these were 6-footers, weren't they? 7-footers.
Even more. Some of them were 7, 8. Some of them have still got their seed heads on the top part of the thing, and I think I gave you a lesson in how to gather the seed 2 or 3 years ago, probably now. It was a long time ago, how to gather foxglove seed, and they're prolific seed producers, but they're biennials. That means they produce seed 1 year, the seed drops on the ground, and they will flower in 2 years' time. So they spend their first year as a rosette stage, and then the second year they will produce a flower spike, and these are the dead flower spikes, if you like. So I said we're going to look forwards 2 years, and if you look on the ground, the seed is shattered out of the pods, and these are baby sunflower seeds.
These little clover type things.
Yes, these little tiny plants, most of them actually a little bit bigger than a match head, but not a great deal bigger. They're about a centimetre across at the most. And just under my hand, probably 300 little plants. Look there, another one there, another clump. from underneath one of the plants. So the seed has come out all by itself, landed on. We've had a few showers a month ago after they'd finished flowering, and that was just enough. But probably there's enough seed on here. The whole of this area will be this verdant green. The rabbits, interestingly, don't touch them. They are poisonous. So the seeds, the plants, the leaves, although they're really attractive flowers and great when you come here in May and June and these plants are in flower. Digitalis purpurea, digitalis, like a little thimble if you like, and the bumblebees absolutely love it. They go up into this little bell-shaped flower and come out dusted with pollen. So many of the foxgloves here are purple in colour, some are pale pink, and of course the bumbles and all the other bee species that visit them sort of pollinate one plant and they don't really mind which one they go in. Some are almost pale yellow, the foxgloves, and so you have this crossbreeding. So when you look at the countryside, some of it's history of the past and it's dictated by the weather, some by human activity, and then this is completely natural. They come here, the foxgloves have been here since I was a child, so at least 70 odd years since I can remember. When I was 5 years old, I can remember coming here and looking up at these huge tall plants. It was only about 3 feet tall back then and it's just lovely. So these will grow and form a little rosette over this winter. They grow next year, all of 2025, and they will come into flower, wait for it, in late May, June, July, August 2026, all that time away. So that's for the marvels of nature, and if you're a gardener, you know that you have to be patient. And when you're a tree planter, they say you don't plant trees for yourself, you plant them for the next generation, and that's why I've done lots of tree planting on the farm. It's being a custodian of the countryside in the true sense of the word, I suppose. I love it. Look at that, Matthew. That will make you smile in a couple of years' time. And all you're looking at is a little green patch on the ground.
But I love the colour and wading through some of these foxgloves and gathering some of the seeds.
Yes.
Because you do a little help, don't you, for them to propagate themselves?
Yes, I do. I gather some, and some of the woodland rides that are mown like this, I will walk round with this strange action. It looks like I've got some sort of strange disease, and it's called broadcasting. And I have this tiny little pocket of seeds, and I spread them out in suitable areas, and it is just glorious. So this area of woodland, right by one of the permissive walks, and people stop, stand, stare, and go very quiet.
The ducks at High Ash Farm going in to roost for an evening. Hey everyone, it's Matthew here, and if you've been enjoying our countryside podcasts, we've got a small favour to ask.
Yes, Matthew. What we're going to do is to ask for a small donation to help run the podcast, and any surplus goes for conservation at High Ash Farm here. And so it's really important. We both love to keep the podcast going, and that duck agrees with me, I think.
Well, it's straightforward to donate. You can make a one-off donation or set up a small monthly contribution, and the address is highashfarm.com/podcast.
We're hugely grateful for any support. It means we can keep sharing the stories of the countryside, which I love doing each week, but it's that small amount of costs we need to cover. So thank you very much in advance.
We've got these leaden grey skies today, and we've come out into the middle of one of Chris's largest expanses of field. And the colour is quite flat today, apart from these lovely autumnal reds. But really, if you look a bit closer, there's other colour to enjoy, isn't there?
I know. A lot of people, with the shorter hours of daylight and the particular lack of sun at the moment, they kind of at the beginning of the SAD syndrome. It's called seasonal affected disorder, and it does affect people, the lower levels of light, but a way of cheering yourself up is if you have the ability to walk out in the countryside. There is always colour of some sort or other, really at any time of the year. And we're mid-November. Normally in the UK we'd have had the first frost by now. It'd have been quite cold. I just remember taking my children to firework displays and we'd be crunching through the leaf litter. The leaves would have been on the ground and there'd be frost on them in the early evening. I remember taking them to some big displays and I actually recorded the fireworks, but as I walked along I accidentally recorded the lovely sound of crunchy leaves underfoot. But this time of the year, a lot of plants, if it stays mild like this, have this ability to produce late flowers. So this is a pollen and nectar field and it's all been mown. And just without moving really, this is autumn hawkbit.
Now we've got some yellow here.
Yeah, there's yellow. It looks like a diminutive dandelion. But speaking of which, look, there's the real McCoy. That's dandelion in full flower.
Yes.
Yes.
It almost looks like wrong to see it at this time of the year.
Yes, it does.
There it is.
And beside it, some hardheads or knapweed, spelt with a K.
Like thistle colour.
Yes, and beautiful as well. And they're all quite close together. And then one that cheers everybody up, daisy or day's eye. It looks like the sun with all the rays coming off it. And of course, these plants do have a value. Oh, look here, just pure accident. One coming into flower, but you probably wouldn't say that. That's called plantain, that one. It's a British native, got a long sort of sword-like leaf down there.
Say it again,
Plantain.
Plantain.
Plantain. Sheep's bit plantain, this one. And and it's in flower. Look, it's producing lots of little yellow pollen. And don't forget, although our butterflies are pretty much gone into hiding, or butterflies like red admirals might have migrated back southwards, gone down to France, I don't blame them. And so lots of our moth species, if I drive round early evening, checking around a farm, I'll often bump into lots of moths at this time of the year, right through to the new year, when one species really becomes very active, the winter moth it's called, and we can have thousands of them here at the farm. If we just walk out on the field just a little bit.
We just bumped into your mothman, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Dave Moore. He's found the Norfolk snout, would you believe?
And he's looking for more by the looks of it over
yes,
there.
He was going round my hoary mullion. Look at this. Yeah, oxeye daisy.
Yes.
In flower and complete with a flower head that's finished and is producing its seed, and it looks viable. It is. Look at that. And just quite surprising. So this wasn't really meant to happen. Nature makes the most of the weather that's available, and it doesn't, nature or natural history doesn't like bare soil, so you have the pioneering species come in, like the dandelion and the hawkbit we just looked at. They come in by air, and if we look round we might actually see some other plants just
in the woodland fringe where we were previously. I saw a very attractive white flower. What was that?
That was white campion. Well done, well spotted. There's campion, tall plant. It's got a close relative, pink campion. They crossbreed sometimes. And it was gathered at the end of village games in June and July, and the champion of the games would be made a garland of campion. So it's actually a derivation of the word champion, is where it comes from. Really well spotted that. So if you're out and about walking in the countryside, it's an amazing amount that you can see. And we're on some light sandy soil, and I'm just looking because a little bit further down the hill there's some flowers with yellow tops on them, and that's ragwort, and it's coming back into flower. Dandelion seed head there, look, perfect for our goldfinches. The little tall seed head where you can pick it and blow off the seeds. Actually, I can do that one because it's finished flowering. We might there we are. That's what I mean by a pioneering species. Look, the little seed heads all drop off like little Rat's seen somebody down at the bottom. Oh no, he hasn't. He's seen a deer, I think. Or is it a deer? Oh no, somebody's on the end of it. It's a large...
That's a dog who's misbehaving, and the owner is having a bit of trouble, I think. There.
Right.
And Matt is putting his 2 penneth worth in as well.
He is. Anyway, we've got one more to visit. One that's really surprising. It's a wildflower, native on the farm here, and we just got to hop back in the truck because it's a woodland species. Well done for spotting that white campion. So we've just got a short drive and a little flower with a trick up its sleeve.
If you've emailed us, we're going to get to some of the correspondence very shortly on the podcast, but we're back in the woods, Chris.
Yes, Matthew, we're in another area of woodland, and it's an area I've brought you to in springtime because one of my favourite wildflowers is here, and it's got the reputation of being the most aromatic of all UK natural wildflowers, and it's called the sweet violet. It's the only one of the member of the violet family that actually has a strong scent. There's another one called dog violet. It's a kind of derogatory term meaning without smell. There's heath violet, and this is Viola odorata, the sweet violet, because of the intense smell. When you sniff it, after a few seconds you lose the scent, and it isn't because the flower has stopped producing, it actually numbs your senses. It's a really peculiar chemical within the plant, and you're going to say Skinner's finally lost the plot because we're not going to look for violets in the middle of November. That is not possible.
Well, I must say, I can't see any blooming plants here.
Let's walk on a little bit.
Well, he's going to surprise us.
Right, we're right in the centre, and this whole area around us is a green understory with little heart-shaped leaves, which are the leaves of the sweet violet. And I think it's going to almost be hands and knees for me. I'll just move some of the twigs out of the way, and the whole floor is covered in these leaves. There they are. It's like a little heart-shaped leaf with a stem coming up, and it's more or less an evergreen, even in the hardest frosts, because we're under a canopy. There's young beech trees all around us, all about, 30, 40 feet high, planted these in 1973. So that's best not to go back in time too much. Now, violets are interesting plants. The deer love them. Just look at all the little stalks sticking up in the air here. All the leaves off the top of them have been grazed off by muntjac or roe deer. And we've got lots of both species here. If you listen to last week's podcast, we came across 6 roe deer in our own little herd of deer here at the farm.
And Kate's enjoyed herself.
I think she
I'm
did.
sure she did, listening in.
Yes, she did. Yes, she's very shy. Actually, she's much more an ambassador of the written word rather than the spoken word. So I think her father embarrasses her a little bit because they don't stop talking, as you will see from one of our questions in the podcast response in a moment. Anyway, Viola odorata. This is a plant in front of us. Clever plant. It's got 3 ways of reproducing itself. The first one is normal flower, which I brought you to in spring, that lovely velvety violet coloured flower, quite diminutive and beautiful little plants, and because it's a south facing gravel slope, it comes into flower quite early, late January, February, on nice warm spring days. Then the second means of reproduction is this plant sends out roots. If I try and find one for you, it will go along the understory and come up somewhere else. There, the underground roots are called stolons, right? Here it is. It's reproducing itself rather like strawberry plants do. They're called runners in strawberry plants, but runners go across the top of the ground and then root, whereas violets, the sweet violet, produces underground stems called stolons. Right, this is where it gets interesting because I've never found this before. All the years I've been looking, and I came here this morning and I found them on every plant, and it's in flower. But, wait for it, the flower doesn't open, ever. It's got pollen in it, inside the little flower bud, and the pollen fertilises the ovaries, and so it kind of continues, and the seed is perfectly good. So, here we go. Just look here. 2 flower buds side by side. Just to prove the point, put your hands down and just feel the little flower buds.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Hard.
Very much so. Yes.
Yep,
Yeah.
there you go. There. So they don't open up.
Ever.
They stay like that, and they're in the understory. Remember, under beech trees, this will be awash with lovely golden beech leaves.
So is that an evolutionary quirk?
Yes, Darwin was one of the first to discover it, and it's got an unusual name. A flower that doesn't open, that self-pollinates. It's called clystogamy. We always have a new word on this podcast. I do have to smile, and I learnt it all those years ago, and I've been searching. I have never found it, because I don't think I knew what I was looking for properly. I didn't know if it was going to flower underground or actually on the plant. But these little flowers are about halfway up the stem, very hard, and they're complete flowers. If I did cut them open, there would be little petals in there, but they never see the light of day.
Well, that's quite sad, I think, isn't
I
it?
think so, but it's good for the plant, because the seed that's produced, the little boat-shaped capsules there that contain the pollen, and there's no nectar in there. That's the interesting thing. They were never designed to attract bees as the open flowers are. So you learn something the whole time. So there we are, a new word for you, clystogamy, a flower that doesn't open. You couldn't make it up, and there they are, right in front of you. Yep, the countryside leaves me open-mouthed and speechless, so I'll have to go quiet.
Well, not just yet, Chris, because we better go back to the van and have a look at the emails.
I forgot that bit, yes.
Before the police come and charge us with clystogamy.
Yes.
I'm sure you used to have to do jail time for that.
Probably, yes. Interesting word.
We're just going to emerge from the woodland here, so we have a bit of light to read your questions by. And as always, it's a wonderful response to the podcast. We do read all the emails if we can't necessarily get to all the questions that you ask each week. Ron in Old Buckingham says, please could you identify this photographed fungi for me? It appeared a few days ago all around the base of a silver birch tree that's possibly dying. It had to be cut down to about 3 metres as it had grown way up into the overhead power cables. So photos attached. It looks rather unpleasant and smells awful. Well, I've known people like that, Ron, but let's have a look at the photograph of the fungi. Yes, it doesn't look that nice, does it?
It's on a silver birch, and it's all around the base. And initially I thought it's our commonest fungi that you'll see on rotting stumps that's parasitic. That would be Armillaria malea, the honey fungus, but it isn't. It's got a really interesting name. It's called leafy brain, Trimella foliacea. And it's a really widespread and common species, particularly on silver birch. It's a parasitic fungus, and it does grow on other trees, but it will actually kill trees, not as violently as the honey fungus, which is very invasive. So it's interesting, and the most noticeable thing of it is it does, I think the word, it wasn't the right word in my fungi book. I did have to check it out. It creates a proper stink if the weather is damp and the tree stump is damp itself, and it is very aromatic was the word.
That's a word we can use. Angela Walker, your emailed photograph here. Thanks for that. A shot of what looks like a suburban garden, possibly. And she says, we moved from the countryside to a busy main road in Norwich only last year, so we were really surprised at how many more muntjacks we now see in the garden. I had what I think might be an unusual sight in my garden yesterday, a magpie sitting on the back of a muntjac deer, feasting on whatever he was picking out of the deer's coat. The photos aren't brilliant quality, but I hope you can make out the magpie who was sitting there for quite a long while, giving the deer a groom. And
yes,
there it is.
There it is. It's
I hadn't
a perfect
spotted
shot.
that.
Yeah, and it is definitely a muntjac. You've got a really large leafy garden there. I'm quite impressed. And the muntjac's standing perfectly still by the look of it. And what you've seen there is what I witness nearly every day at the farm. Right in front of us we have horses, and most days I see magpies or jackdaws on the back of a horse. And so what they're doing, particularly with the deer species, they get ticks on them, and the deer can't groom their own backs. They can't reach round far enough, and the ticks suck blood until they're large enough to continue their life cycle. Then they drop off, but the magpies think that's manna from heaven and eat them. And every day on the sheep that are here at the moment, I've got magpies and jackdaws in particular going up and down the backs of all the sheep and grooming. And I've seen cattle egrets on the sheep as well when they're grazing near the stream, but they're after a different source of food. As the sheep walk along, they disturb the insects in front of the sheep, and the little cattle egrets drop off onto the ground and gobble up and then hop back on for a free ride. Very clever.
You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. And here's a photograph of what looks to me like a deer caught up in a net. And this email from Gillian: my daughter and son-in-law found this deer caught up in their son's football netting. They managed to set it free though, so that's good news, but they're quite prone and quite caught up. And Gillian says, is it a female muntjac?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. There's no sign of antlers. Muntjac breed at any time of the year. They've got a really unusual breeding cycle. They don't have a proper rut with a fixed time. So because they're an introduced species, and where they come from, Reeves muntjac is the correct term for them. They don't have the climatic conditions we have, but they do breed in their home territory. They breed all the year round, and so the birth they give birth about every 9 months or so, and we have both the males and the females here. And what you photographed is a female muntjac, and you notice the white is on the underside of the tail, and when they get alarmed and run away, the tail goes vertical, and like with our native roe deer, who have white buttocks, as my daughter described on last week's podcast, they raise the tail to show the deer behind them where to run.
Sue Hooper has emailed to say that she really enjoyed Kate's appearance on the podcast last week, and her reading in particular. It was beautiful, and I ordered a copy of the book, says Sue. Thank you for sharing. You are definitely your father's daughter, Kate, says Sue.
Yes, poor Kate. She's put her hands on her head if she could hear that.
Chris says, up here in the Peak District, we seem to be stuck under a clag of cloud, hill fog and morning mists. The forecast hasn't altered for a fortnight and doesn't look likely to in the next 14 days. Are you experiencing similar weather patterns there? Cloud, little rain, mild temperatures with little fluctuation between day and night. And one thing I've noticed is the increase in midges, the flies. Beneficial for bats, no doubt. Do these weather patterns create any variations to your wildlife observations?
Yes, exactly that. And I had noticed the increase in autumnal insect life. We've got butterflies still on the wing. I've been visiting their hibernation site. This is our native butterfly of peacocks and small tortoiseshells, and they're not gone into proper hibernation yet, so they're still active. We've got an apiary at the farm with lots of beehives there, and the bees are all still active. The hornets and common wasps have finished their nesting, and the queens have all left and gone into hibernation. But at night time, with midges and gnats flying about everywhere, and our pipistrelle bats are having a field day. So well observed.
And here's one from Helen Swan. The story about the spindle you told last time. Interesting, Chris, as we agree it's a native. But is sugar beet a native? I know beet, at least sea beet, is a native. Does beet get this aphid or virus? I've never seen it. Or is it just sugar beet?
No, the native sea beet. It's really interesting because we have what's called sea beet with sugar production in the UK. We have an A and B quota, and we have C quota beet as well. A little bit confusing, but sea beet is a native, and that was grown as an edible crop way back in Greece 2,000 years ago. The Romans actually harvested some. It's very salt tolerant. It grows all around the coast of the UK except on very rocky coasts. It's a plant with leathery spinach-like leaves. In fact, it's called sea spinach, and it's one of those wild foods that people harvest and boil up. It's got a very sweet, sort of musky taste to it, and it does get virus yellows as well. So it's either an unusual plant because it's either an annual, a biennial, or a perennial. And in the little root at the bottom, which is what the Romans boiled up to make a sweet sort of liqueur type drink, the sugar content's about 10 to 12% sugar, whereas our sugar beet, which have been bred from it, beetroot and other plants are closely related to it. The native sea beet is closely related to beetroot that you grow in your garden, and other plants as well. There's a whole family of them, and they all have these swollen roots, but our sugar beet that is grown commercially has been bred from sea beet, and sometimes sugar beet will bolt, and that they produce the seed and become an annual plant, and then you have something called weed beet growing in your crop, which are closely related to the sea beet that you'll see growing around like that. It's salt tolerant, which is why farmers who grow sugar beet spread salt on the land the previous autumn, and it kind of acts as a potash substitute, so it's much cheaper to use sodium rather than potash. So it's a plant I know well, growing sugar beet on these hills of the sand for years and years and years here at High Ash Farm.
And Helen also says, always loving every minute of the podcast. Good to hear your daughter, Chris, though she didn't get much of a word in edgeways, did she?
No, as I did say, she's more the written word. And I've learned over the years that if you're broadcasting, there's one thing you don't have. You can have silence, but you mustn't have dead air.
Well, that's almost it for another podcast. Clearly, we're aiming not to give any dead air for next week, and that will need a bit of help from you, because we'd love to receive more comments and questions and observations from the countryside. The address to send any questions or reports from wherever you are, chris@countrysidepodcast.co.uk. And thanks for your company this week. Well done, Chris. See you back at the farm next time.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it already.
This is a Soundyard production. Music is by Tom Harris.
Hello, it's Anna and Sophie from Soundyard here. Our new service, Spoken Stories, is an incredible experience where we record the stories and voice of your loved one, which you can then hold on to forever.
It makes for an incredible gift, and anyone can make one. Take a listen to this. It beautifully captures the thoughts and feelings of life from a 6-year-old's perspective.
I'm 6 years old and I love running around. I can run very, very fast, but I'm even faster on my bike. That's why I love biking. It makes me feel energetic, and also I bike loads of places. I like doing sports like dodgeball The people that are in charge in the world, well, I think that there should be no one in charge at all. So everyone's in charge. So everyone's so there's no person that's in charge. So everyone is it's a bit more free. That's what I think. Well, what I try to change at the moment is global warming. It's when us humans litter, destroy the planet and all its nature. That's global warming. It makes me feel sad. And also, if us humans keep doing that, and that it could destroy the whole planet Earth, and then all of the human beings will be destroyed. I try to stop global warming. And also, in my coat pocket, I have a bit of Kit Kat litter I found on the floor once. I love the planet more than anything. Grown-ups should be stopping global warming, because grown-ups are more powerful than kids. But if kids can be more powerful than grown-ups, kids and grown-ups can work together and do it. Kids should be able to do the same things as grown-ups. They should have more rights. Well, I love myself because that I believe in a lot of things. That's what I love about myself. I like being a kid, but because when I'm a grown up, I'm gonna have my own kids because that's what I want. And also, I'm a bit worried to have kids. And I'm still going to be a kid for a long, long time. So I'm glad that's actually going to happen. I'm glad I'm going to stay a kid for a long time. I'm going to have kids because I want to know what it feels like to be a parent. I'm going to be a good parent.
Isn't that just gorgeous? If you'd like to find out more about recording a spoken story of your own, or you'd like to buy this as a present for someone, take a look at our website, www.soundyard.org/spoken stories, and take advantage of our introductory offer. Alternatively, you can get in touch via email, hello@soundyard.org.
And if the internet isn't an option, you can leave a message with your details on our landline number. It's 01603 273 899, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.